What's up guys, Lifting here. In this video I'm going to review the new expansion for Guild Wars 2, Heart of Thorns. This means I'll be talking mostly about the new features of the expansion and not so much about the core game mechanics that have remained unchanged. So with the expansion comes 4 new zones, lots of new meta events, a new mastery system, character elite specializations, adventure challenges, the Revenant profession, new PvP content such as the Stronghold Battleground, a new world versus world map, guild halls, and of course, raids. The raids, however, haven't been released yet. The first tiers are supposed to release in about 2 weeks from now, so I can't comment too much on them, but we'll be talking a bit about them as well. So ArenaNet's original game philosophy with Guild Wars 2 was that it weren't supposed to be just another endgame only focused MMORPG. Instead, you should be able to explore and experience all of the game content without necessarily being max level. For many players, this felt as if the game actually didn't have any endgame content, and Guild Wars 2 quickly became infamous for not having any interesting content to offer the players after reaching max level. Now, if this is true or not that the game didn't have any endgame content is not a discussion we're going to have now, but needless to say, this situation led to many players wishing for more relevant endgame content where they would be able to further progress their characters or at least have something endgame exclusively to do. And this is where Heart of Thorns comes in. While the expansion adds a lot of new content for pre-endgame, the concept behind the expansion is definitely endgame focused. For instance, many of the new character progression features, including the mastery and character elite specialization system, simply won't unlock until you reach level 80. And when you reach level 80, your experience bar will then be replaced with a mastery experience bar. Then depending on whether or not you are completing content outside the new zones or in the old zones of the world, this experience goes to level up your different types of masteries. And these include being able to use a glider, mushroom jumping, getting a mentor sign, auto looting, and so on and so on. And let me just tell you guys, it takes quite a while to master these masteries. And seriously, no pun intended, it really does take quite a long time. Besides that, you're going to need 250 hero points to fully unlock the powers of your elite specialization, which also takes a decent amount of time to farm. And I feel I should mention here that while the Revenant is the only real new profession or class per se, the elite specializations for each class, if you decide to use them, does in many cases make the classes feel significantly different. For instance, going from being a traditional guardian and speccing into the bow-wielding dragon hunter, or the ranger speccing into the druid specialization completely changes the way the professions are played and feels. And in case you're interested, I'll link to a page that shows each elite specialization and the weapon that they require for each profession in the description of the video. And in regards to more endgame content, the 10-man raids are also going to be endgame exclusive. By defeating the various bosses and completing these raids, you'll get access to exclusive items, skins, guild hall upgrades, and the pretty awesome new legendary armor precursors. And one thing that is important to note here is that the content of Heart of Thorns does not increase your character's maximum level cap or give you higher item level or more powerful gear than what you could previously obtain in the base game. That means you don't have to worry about your expensive ascended or legendary gear getting outdated or less powerful than the new gear you're able to obtain in the new content or when a new expansion pack comes out sometime in the future. And now this can sometimes be an issue for some players as it makes them feel like they won't be able to really progress and increase the power of their character like you would be able to from other MMORPGs such as World of Warcraft, where you would increase the level cap and you would give the player new instances with higher item level gear. And so for that reason, if you're the type of player who absolutely only can appreciate an MMORPG for the gear progression treadmill system, then I'm sorry, Guild Wars probably isn't going to be the game for you. Gear does matter in the game and it is quite challenging to get the best ascended or legendary gear. But after that, you're kinda set. But it is important to understand that there are plenty of other ways of progressing your character in this game. But new and better gear every expansion is not part of this game's core philosophy. And now let's talk a bit about the Heart of Maguma and the 4 new map zones available to us in this expansion. Here we find the Verdant Brink Zone, the Auric Basin Zone, the Tangled Depth Zone, And finally, the Dragon Stand Zone. The overall theme for these zones is that they are using a jungle tile set and that they are being attacked or influenced by the Mmorpg. Just as any other zone in Guild Wars 2, these zones are also incredibly beautiful and well designed. They are, however, somewhat mechanically different. Because of the introduction of gliding through the mastery system, the design of these zones are much more vertical oriented, which also makes the zones feel much larger compared to the normal zones from the game. The vertical approach makes exploring these new zones much more interesting. For instance, to reach certain areas you'll have to glide or use jumping mushrooms. However, it's not always apparent where to or how to access these or find the place where you need to glide from. The result is that you get to explore the zones much more thoroughly and notice the finer details of the layout. The downside to this is, however, that it can sometimes be incredibly frustrating trying to find objectives and missions on the map. And then there's also situations where you need to have unlocked certain masteries in order to be able to progress further on into the map, which honestly is a pain in the ass, especially if you run around with a group on your way to complete an event or seek out some kind of objective and everybody else is able to use their exalted lore mastery to progress further on. But since you haven't unlocked that yet, you are left outside and you have to wait for them to complete the event or start a new one yourself. It is a bit discouraging, at least until you unlock it for yourself. And I should also mention that the difficulty of the monsters in these new zones are also significantly higher. And if you, like me, expected to group pull or simply run past the monsters to progress faster, then you'll most likely end up getting yourself killed. They hit much harder and requires you to use your dodge mechanic much more often, at least if you want to live. And I guess that can be a good thing. I mean, there is a reason that we're able to dodge to begin with. It is a more interesting approach to combat. But to be completely honest, guys, when you enter the new zones for the first time, they are a major pain in the ass. They're beautiful, they're good looking, but they are a pain in the ass. You will most likely die a lot, you'll be stuck because you haven't unlocked the necessary masteries to progress, and you will get lost a lot. Because of that, I highly suggest that you try to find a group or people to do the content with. It makes it much more enjoyable and efficient. Oh, and it should be said that it is in these new zones that the new Heart of Thorns storyline takes place. Unfortunately, I haven't completed the storyline yet, so I can't give you my personal opinion, but from what I've seen or read, it appears that the general consensus finds it to be significantly better than the original personal story of Guild Wars 2 and on par with the Living World Season 2 storyline that was later introduced to the game. Another really awesome feature that Heart of Thorns brings is the option to create a guild hall. These guild halls can be claimed in the Heart of Mmorpg. Here you can, together with your guild, organize events, guild missions, and simply have a place to hang out when you're not doing anything else. The guild halls can then over time be upgraded by obtaining various materials throughout certain other content in the game, such as raids for instance. And to me, the guild halls make the guild feel much more intimate. And I'm not talking about that in a weird sexual way. Instead of being spread out all over Tyria, you now actually get to hang out in one place you can call your own and be proud of. This encourages guild members to talk and do content together, which is exactly what Guild Wars is all about. And then there is of course the pretty awesome feature of being able to register guild teams and compete against other guilds in structured PvP battlegrounds. And of course, to show off your guild skills, there is a leaderboard that shows the best guild teams in the world. And there is so many new features and improvements to the game, and obviously I don't have the time to talk about all of them in this review. So I will leave a link in the description. Here you can go and check out all of the features that has been changed in Heart of Thorns. And so to wrap it all up, Heart of Thorns does, in my opinion, successfully manage to add a significant amount of additional but very relevant content to the core game that makes it feel much more rewarding to play. The concept of adding endgame exclusive content while still managing to keep the non-endgame content relevant greatly encourages you to keep on playing to see everything the game has to offer at max level while still enjoying the journey to get there. And Guild Wars does, in my opinion, offer amazing, fun and challenging PvE and PvP content. Just wait until you guys try out the new meta events of the new zones. And the leveling process is actually an enjoyable experience compared to many other MMORPGs out there. The dungeons are fun, the fractals are for the most part challenging and rewarding, and as a matter of fact, the PvP content in this game is the best PvP content of any MMORPG I have ever tried. It's fast, it's skill-based, it just works really well. The beautiful zones makes it an enjoyable experience to explore and do your map completion. Guild Wars is actually one of those few MMORPGs that can make me stop up just to look at the landscape. I don't really experience that in other MMORPGs. The character progression system is fairly straightforward and at lower levels a bit boring. However, at high levels when each specialization is unlocked, there is plenty of options to choose from, which allows you to build a character that you feel comfortable with in your own unique way. And that said, there is however always a meta, and some people might encourage you to follow those specific builds, but that really is up to you. The important thing is that you have the option. I do think that the starting zones of the new areas could do with a better introduction for players who have never been there. As I entered the zones for the first time, I had no idea what to do or where to go. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know how to unlock some of the necessary masteries that I needed to progress. And overall, it led to me feeling demotivated and not particularly interested in exploring the new zones, no matter how beautiful they were looking. I feel this could be corrected by adding some sort of natural progression for the player outside the story missions to make it much more enjoyable. And now that I know how to get through the zones, I quite enjoy it, but I'm sure a lot of people will get turned off if they have to power through this themselves. Keep in mind, I had an entire stream to help me out with these things, and it still felt frustrating. Another thing I wish the game would improve upon is the hero point farming you have to do in order to unlock your master specialization when reaching level 80. To do this, as I mentioned earlier in the review, you need 250 hero points. Farming these can be quite the chore. I probably spent 15 hours doing this and it honestly wasn't that enjoyable. Now if I had a better sense of direction or knew where to go, I could have done this faster, as there are plenty of hero point rewards to gain in the new zones. But again, because of the layouts and lack of leveled mastery skills, it simply made it too tedious and inefficient for me to obtain the majority of those. Another thing about the hero points is that after you have unlocked your master specialization, you can still do hero point challenges and obtain hero points. However, they no longer have any usage at all. And well, I'm no game designer, so take whatever I say with a grain of salt, but I could easily see a method in which extra hero points could be turned in for mastery experience or some sort of currency or even magic find for that matter to make it relevant. But who knows, I'm not a game designer. As I also mentioned earlier, Guild Wars 2 won't be for everyone. If you're too used to the idea of only having character progression through gear drops or level cap increases, then you probably won't enjoy Guild Wars 2. I personally used to be one of those players, but after realizing how much more there is to the game and learning to appreciate the more vertical approach to progression, I find myself enjoying this just as much, if not even more, than the other approach. That said, Guild Wars does definitely have horizontal progression systems, but it's not the only way of progression. Overall, I find Guild Wars 2 to be an incredibly polished MMORPG which offers lots of both PvE and PvP content. And with Heart of Thorns, there's just so much more to do and discover. ArenaNet has managed to build on top of an already fairly successful game that may, to be honest, have lacked relevant endgame content in its original state. But with Heart of Thorns, they have added that last gameplay element to the game, which now results in a very complete and engaging experience to be part of. And I personally think that if ArenaNet can manage to keep their players engaged with continued content patches, which they're already doing, like the upcoming raids for instance, then I'm sure Guild Wars will remain a very popular MMORPG by today's standards. Anyway, I hope you got something useful from this review of Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns. If you want to try out the game but have never played it before, I suggest starting with the free-to-play version. Then if you decide you like the game and wish to unlock the expansion content, then go ahead and buy the game. I have left a link in the description for both the free-to-play version and for the Heart of Thorns purchase. These are official affiliate links from ArenaNet, and by using these links you're also supporting me as a content creator without it costing you anything. So if you do, thank you very much, it actually does make a difference. If you have any questions, feel free to come and visit me at my Twitch livestream. The link is in the description. Remember to subscribe for more Guild Wars content. Thank you for watching, and bros, do you even nerd?